Ladies and gentlemen, today is our lucky day. Today is our lucky day. We have one of the greatest scholars in Vedic astrology who's been studying Vedic astrology for so long. And I still remember, I think it was 2004 or 2005 when I heard of her from Jyotish circles that this lady is a genius. She's a genius. She can take any technique, go deep into it, and come up with various researches, various variations also. And I started interacting with her, I think it was 2005 or 6, I don't remember. We discussed Chardasha or some technique we discussed. Or it was Astrocartography, some method, I don't remember now. And she went so deep, I got scared. I got scared with her knowledge, you know. Please welcome Shri Satsiri Ji from USA. Satsiri Ji, namaste, pranam. How are you doing?
Namaste, Satanam. I'm doing great. I'm very glad to be here with you, Sunil. I think we were talking about Kala Chakra Dasha back then, which none of us really knew how to do it.
Yeah.
We still don't, I don't think.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest. Kala Chakra Dasha is one of the toughest. You know.
Yes.
You got great memory. You got great memory. So it's really an honor for Saptarishis Astrology channel to have you here, and we will be discussing Hillary Clinton's chart because of course the upcoming elections. And but first and foremost, I know it's night time over there to make you and Phyllis Chub stay so late in the night, you know. So thank you so much for coming. But before all that, how did you start in astrology, Western astrology or Vedic astrology?
You know, I don't know, what can I say? I started as a kid. I liked planets. I would make a toast to the moon at the family parties and things like that. I just paid attention to planets, and somehow I got into Western astrology when I got to college, really.
Okay. How long was that back? How long was it? How long?
Oh, just, you know, when I went to college, it was ages ago. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
But I went to college at a very stimulating time. You know, planetary time, full of revolutions and the world. All kinds of things. Oops, I just turned off my screen here. And
so how long did you do Western astrology?
So through college, and I was studying it. I was at Harvard University, and I was interested. I was trying to you know, find out more to study, and all they had there was like history of medieval science. That would be the closest thing to find out anything about astrology. So I'd go to the libraries and bring out all these dusty old books, and you know. Anyway, I started studying astrology more and more, and then my path led me to join an ashram and become a person on a spiritual path. And you know, so for a long time, I mean, ever since those days, I have been part of the Sikh Dharma in the US. My teacher was Yogi Bhajan. And, you know, he encouraged me to study astrology. He had studied astrology as part of his training in India. He didn't pursue it, but he did understand its power. And he would talk about Western astrology. But then one day in the ashram, somebody came and visited my house and knocked on the door and handed me this book. And it was called Jataka Parijata. And I had no idea what that was.
That's an advanced book, Jatak Parijata. Wow. Wow.
And, you know, so I could understand a little of it, but somehow it got me hooked. And then I just followed one astrologer after another. You know, people teaching in the West, like Hartefo and other so many very good teachers were very excited about astrology, and so I caught the bug.
Before, wow, I mean, he is considered a legend over there.
Oh yeah, he was a legend. I mean, he is a legend. It was amazing to study with him, and I studied with him for quite a while. I mean, he was a fantastic teacher because it takes a strong personality to really impart the love of this knowledge. You know, and I think there have been many teachers with fantastic personalities, which we're so grateful for. And to kind of woo us away from the West, you know, and to understand that really, you know, we have to go back to the roots to understand this subject at all, really.
So then I mean, Phyllis and you have known each other for a very long time. Of course, Phyllis is the right person to ask you more deeper questions. So, which areas? I mean, Phyllis.
One of the things I would like to support is Satsuri is has a phenomenal knowledge of Jaimini. And I've had the privilege of being with her for many years to go through that. And she is truly a scholar. Her work that I have all around me here has been a gift. And anyone who can study with her, I think, is blessed. And one of the things, Satsuri, I would appreciate if you could talk about a bit is how many techniques are you aware of that are considered to be Western techniques, but that also apply in I think a lot of people would be interested in that.
You mean like Western techniques that apply to Vedic astrology?
Definitely, because there's more interest coming in the Western community as they start to look at, and I will say, their lack of history, and they look now to the Eastern history. And it's interesting how this knowledge has been shared.
Yeah, it's a huge, sorry. Yeah, okay, so it's a huge scholarly study just to follow the, you know, the pilgrimage sort of the knowledge from the East to the West. And, you know, the Arab, I mean, it's just such a vast topic, but I mean, Western astrology has so much in it, you know, but it's just unfortunate that there seems to be some kind of defensive prejudice or something against opening to all the knowledge of Vedic astrology but you know, the technique I'm going to talk about tonight is progression, which is clearly used by so many Western astrologers. It's a primary technique, and but it was recommended from a Vedic text, the Manusmriti, and so I'm going to talk about that because it's a fantastic, easy to use, so explanatory technique that Westerners, you know, certainly see the value of, and Vedic astrologers, I don't think we have anything against it, but we just haven't picked up on it or used it very much. Because, so it's the kind of thing that can track your development through your lifetime in a beautiful way. I mean, I think we rely on our dasha system in the Eastern, you know, Vedic astrology, but I think it's good to bring in these other techniques as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think a lot of people will enjoy that crack to let more light come through. Thank you.
Exactly.
God bless you for being.
Thank you.
So how do we proceed with our topic of today, Hillary Clinton? There's so much of controversy on her birth time.
Yeah, well, if it's okay, Sunil, I'd like to mention both the candidates, if that's not overstepping or going too far.
Okay.
But you know, I have charts for both of them and progressions for both of them because I really, you know, I wanted to talk about the, you know, I do want to talk about this powerful thing of progressions. I wanted to center around that. But I think first we should bring up the whole topic of Hillary's chart, whether it's you know, you know, whether we have a real chart for her or whatever. And what I use is I go to the my favorite site for finding chart data is Astro Data Bank, which is now under astro.com. And you know, that whole thing started by Lois Rodden of keeping fantastic records on every chart is such a valuable database for astrologers.
Yeah.
You know, where
Amazing,
would we be
absolutely.
without it?
Yeah.
And you know, that brings some rigor to the whole thing. So if you look on there, for the chart of Hillary Clinton, there is no less than 15 paragraphs of in the source notes about all different evidence for what could be her chart and why and so on. But I also had met a Western astrologer back in 2001, I believe, who told me that the true time for Hillary Clinton was 8 in the morning, 8:02 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already predisposed to that. And there's evidence for that on the Astro Databank site. But then there's a lot of other conflicting claims and times. But I'll give you my arguments of how to rectify a chart in a short way. And so you need to start from some kind of evidence, and then you need what I call astrologic.
Right.
So, so the 8:02 a.m., the factual evidence for it is that her mother said that she was in the, she had delivered the child in time for breakfast.
Okay.
And also that there was an article by an astrologer naming the 8:02 time. There was phone calls to the, to Clinton's office where 8:02 a.m. was verified. And, so 3 or 4 little things like that all sounded pretty solid. But then there were other claims just as strong for 8 in the evening and then for other times. And recently some astrologer came out and said, no, it's 2:18 in the morning, and said that he had evidence for that, but then later he retracted it and said he didn't have evidence for it.
Oh, and these phone calls were made by whom to Hillary's office?
It's on the notes here. Let me just see on my paperwork here. Just hang on 1 second. Okay, so it was Alice Mason called in January of 2003.
Mm-hmm.
That she had talked to the Clinton Democratic office in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And she was told by an associate there that they had a recorded 8:02 a.m.
Okay.
And then there was another report that somebody, somebody who was playing at a fundraiser for Al Gore back in 2001,
Mm-hmm.
talked to Hillary at the fundraiser and asked her when she was born. And her exact words were, I know it was very close to 8 a.m., 4 or 5 minutes before or after.
Okay.
So, so those are nice pieces of evidence, and then of course there's all this conflicting evidence. So what to do? That's the astrologer's quandary.
Yeah.
So that's where astrologic and rectification comes in. Okay. So I'll give you a little bit on that. So the first thing to do is to make a bright line on a given day and see, is the moon changing signs?
Mm-hmm.
Because the moon is the moon, our ocean of emotion, is the most important planet in the chart, right? In our Vedic understanding. The birth nakshatra is, that's part of the panchang, and it has to do with our longevity, our health, and our identity, the moon's nakshatra. So in 24 hours, very often the moon will shift nakshatras or even signs. So on Hillary's birthday, it shifted signs conveniently. It moved from Aquarius to Pisces. So that's the first choice for someone rectifying the chart. Does she have an Aquarian moon or a Piscean moon?
Okay.
So to me, that was an easy decision. Should I just go on about it, or do you want to comment on it?
No, please go on. Please go on.
I'm happy to have your feedback, your arguments, Phyllis, or you, or anyone.
No, there is no argument here. Go ahead.
We're enchanted just listening to you, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so to me, the choice between Aquarius and, let me just fix something here so I can comment more easily for you. Okay, so between Aquarius and Pisces, if it is Aquarius, it will be high degrees of Aquarius, right? I mean, starting at 0 a.m., it will be, you know, in the high 20s of Aquarius. And at 8:41 a.m. on that day, it shifts over to 0 Pisces. So one of the key things that we always should remember is the power of degrees of planets. In Parashara and in Jaimini, I think in Jaimini, the very first technique that he gives in his work is to understand the karakas, the Atma Karaka, and all the other karakas, and how important those are. So who gives the planets this degree strength? Surya, the sun. So the Surya rules each and every degree in the 30 degrees of the zodiac. And he has kind of like a ladder of we climb in consciousness through the 30 degrees of a sign. At the lowest degree of a sign, we're a baby, and at the highest degree of the sign, we're a master. So we're climbing up increment by increment, degree by degree, and that's the basis of the progression technique that we will look at, you know, like every year of life, every day of life after a baby is born will represent 1 year in that baby's future. It's a fascinating thing. And so that's the power of the solar degree. So it's always so important to understand how far advanced in a sign is a planet. It has great philosophical significance.
Could I ask a question, a very basic question on what you earlier said?
Okay.
How would I still decide, or how would you decide, whether Hillary Clinton is an Aquarian or a Piscean?
Okay, that's a perfect question. That's what we're delving into. So I'm focusing on the moon, on her day of birth. So the moon can either be at, say, 25 to 30, I haven't checked the exact degree at 0 hours on that day. But let's say it's, okay, I know that at 8:41 a.m. it shifts from 30 degrees of Aquarius to 0 degrees of Pisces. So that's 8 hours. It moves, the moon moves roughly a degree every 2 hours. So we're talking about, it could have moved 4 degrees. So at midnight on her birthday, on the, you know, at the beginning of that day, the moon was at roughly 26 degrees of Aquarius.
Yeah, it is 25.32. You're right.
Okay, thank you. And at 8:41, it becomes 0 Pisces using the Chitrapaksha Namsha. So what happens to such a moon? It is more advanced than most of the planets all the way up until 8:41 a.m. And at a certain point, it becomes the highest degree. So this is what Jaimini calls the Atma Karaka. The planet of highest degree is what we consider to be the soul power, the spiritual challenge. It also shows the king or the aristocrat or the president or the, you know, somebody who has, let's say, their Lagna Lord configured with the Atma Karaka of the chart, in other words, the planet of highest degree. That person will have a destiny to associate with the higher status circles of people. So it has a mundane application, meaning, you know, you'll be working in elevated circles, you'll know the powerful people. And it has a spiritual significance, meaning that your life path will be about experiencing and satisfying the challenges of that highest degree planet, which we call Atma, which Jaimini and Parajara call the Atma Karaka, the significator of soul. So it's those higher people you meet outside, and inside it's your soul's learning and journey.
Ma'am, could I ask a question here?
Yes.
Ma'am, could it also represent the people as in Karakas they stand for, or the houses, supposing it's in a particular house? The Atma Karaka is there in a particular house. So could it also represent the person that house represents?
Thank you, Anuradha. That's a good question. Yes, the Atma Karaka is linked to certain houses. You know, if we go into a full study of Atma Karaka, the Atma Karaka is linked to the first house. The spouse indicator, Dara Karaka, is linked to the seventh house. Plus, they both have supplementary houses. The Atma Karaka also has signification over the eighth house. And the Dara Karaka also has signification over the second house of the chart. And these has to do with, you know, 1 and 8 are both ruled by one planet, Mars, in the natural zodiac. And so the first house is where, you know, you have your identity, and the eighth house is where you go through deep transformation. So 1 and 8 are both, you know, the eighth house is the depths of the soul or whatever. But so 2 houses can link to some of the Karakas, but for some of them, they only have 1 house that they're linked to, each of the Karakas, the Chara Karakas that we're talking about. So I hope that answered your question. So, all right, so back to Hillary. Phyllis, hi Phyllis. Would you like to run for president? Okay, so Hillary, we have a choice. As astrologers studying this day, we're talking about a person who could either have the moon in a high degree of Aquarius, or in the first 8, you know, I think after the next, so from 9 in the morning till midnight, it's, how many hours is that? It's 12 hours, whatever. I mean, it would go 6 or 7 degrees. So at the very end of the day, she could have the moon in about 6 or 7 Pisces. So to me, it becomes, you know, very obvious that her life has to illustrate a moon at a high degree and in Aquarius, not Pisces, because also, then you can bring in, you know, the characteristics of signs. Pisces Rashi, as we know, is connected to, we call it the Rishi Rashi. It's connected to Rishis, you know, teachers, saintly people, teachers and scholars. Aquarius is very worldly people who are connected to modern day trends. They're very much with the current scene. They're very much a part of current events. Aquarius is the sign of, you know, parties. You know, politics is one big party in our country, parties. So, you know, to me, it's just very obvious, both from the point of view of the Karaka system and the nature of the sign, that she has to have an Aquarian, not a Piscean moon. Okay, so that would be my first step. So then I can rule out many hours of the day. Then I know she has to be born no later than 8:41 in the morning. Then it comes down to the next part of the tripod. There's a tripod in a chart, you know, moon, sun, and lagna. So the next great one for rectifying is lagna. Okay, so if she's born before 8:41, then we only have a few possible ascendant rising signs. I think the first sign was maybe a tiny bit of Cancer. I forget now, I had checked, but I know there's Leo, or maybe it starts at Gemini. I can't, right at midnight, you know, if she were born 2 minutes after midnight. But there's a few signs, and the last sign is Scorpio. There's a little bit of Scorpio, a lot of Libra. Libra is very long because it takes a long time to rise. And then Leo. So here, you know, to save time, you could become kind of pedantic and go through every single possible rising sign, which I won't, you know, kind of be over the top and go into all that. I'm just going to say there's two prominent ones. One is Leo and one is Libra. So Leo becomes of interest because some astrologer brought up evidence for it, you know, and it's one of the claimants for the time to be a Leo logos. So I'm just going to compare Leo and Libra. Libra is the bulk of the time, you know. Oh, and the other thing is, I think it's only once Libra comes that the moon gets the highest degree and becomes the Atmakaraka. And it's important that the moon should be Hillary's Atmakaraka. Why? Because, not just because she's a woman and running for president, so she must have a powerful moon. That would be kind of a simple logic, you could argue. But to me, the other thing somebody with such an extraordinary career has to have is Maharaja yogas, right?
Right.
Has to have strong yogas. And when the moon is in Aquarius, it has two amazing yogas, two huge linkages that are so rare and, you know, just so bright that it shows, well, why, you know, how can we have such an unusual life, a woman who would become the wife of a guy who becomes president and then turn around and herself become president, you know, not because he died, but because she's running for president. What a rare chart. Okay, so when you have the moon in Aquarius, it has two, not one, but two major exchanges with other planets that cause Raj Yogas. The first one is that the moon in Aquarius exchanges with Saturn in Cancer.
Right.
Saturn is in Cancer.
Right.
And it is, so they both rule each other's sign. And so that is a sambandha, or a linkage. And Prajna teaches that it's the strongest type of a linkage when you have two planets ruling each other's signs. And also the parivartana of the moon with Saturn explains a little bit about, you know, the kind of conventional take on Hillary Clinton is that she's boring, that she's, you know, people don't like her, she's dull, you know, who wants her, you know, all that. So that, you know, understanding the power of the Saturn in Cancer, exchanging places with the moon, which show why she's seen as a wonk, a policy expert who's yet a totally wooden person with no personality. So all of that is kind of like the shadow of Saturn coming on that moon. But then she has a second exchange, which is, you know, only a few astrologers are going to know about this, because most of us don't really fully, have not studied yet the rulerships of the nodes. And, you know, it would be too long to go into it all, but there is a huge case to be made that each of the nodes owns a sign, a Rashi, and also even has a Mula-Trikona sign. But so for the nodes, they can be said to own Aquarius for Rahu,
Right.
and Scorpio for Ketu. So I definitely subscribe to that and have for years and years. And so Rahu for her is in Taurus. And Rahu has great strength in Taurus. It has to do with its longevity. It's called the Ayush, or longevity Karaka. I mean, its Ayush sign is Taurus, where it's exalted for giving longevity. So Hillary has Rahu in Taurus, and Taurus owns Aquarius. And the moon is the Mula-Trikona owner of Taurus, and the exaltation owner of Taurus.
Right.
So that is an exchange of a type not usually recognized, because it's a little bit more advanced. You have to understand more about these rules, but it is a very valid exchange. And so that gives a double whammy to this moon. It has two exchanges with Rahu and with Saturn. And Rahu is the planet that is featured for politicians.
Yeah.
That Rahu's about, crossing borders, and because Rahu, to be a politician, you have to be a diplomat of sorts. Yeah. And, so what I like to say is you have to learn to dip low on the mat to be a successful politician. And only Rahu has that devious kind of skill where it can appear to make everybody happy and turn right around and make an opposite group happy. That's Rahu.
That's fantastic description of Rahu. Fantastic description.
Yeah. So, this is Hillary, and this is also what they're always accusing her of. Oh, she's so false. She's such a cheater. She's, she promises this to these people, and then she goes and gets huge fees from these other people, so it's pure Rahu. So she has a huge gift with that, because Moon, if, as I argue, has to be the Atma Karaka, has this exchange with Rahu, which will be the Amatya Karaka. So the second Karaka in the list is the next lower degrees, and Prajra teaches that to find the degrees for Rahu, because it's a point that's always moving backwards, we have to subtract it from the 30 of whatever sign it's in. So Hillary's Rahu is at 1 or 2 degrees in Taurus. So subtracting that from 30, because it has moved on its life journey all the way backwards through Taurus from 30, 29, 28, and now it's at the last couple of degrees in Taurus before it'll slip back into Aries. So that has, gives it something like 28, 29. I don't have it in front of me. Whereas the moon would be in the 29th degree, almost to 30. So the moon will outrank the Rahu. But it becomes an exchange of Atma Karaka and Amatya Karaka, the next one down, which Jaimini and Prajra teach. The Amatya means the ministers to the king. We have the king, which is the Atma Karaka, and then we have the king's circle of advisors and powerful, his cabinet. And that's Amatya Karaka.
If I may point out, I do not know if you consider this part also. There is, speaking of moon and Rahu becomes Amatya Karaka. Whenever, I think so, please correct me, because you're more deep into Gemini. I left Gemini quite a long time back. Is Amatya Karaka, whenever it is in a Kendra or Kona from Atma Karaka, that creates like a Raj Yoga or Raj Sambandha kind of thing,
Ooh, very good.
Am I
no,
right?
Go on. Excellent point. Yes, thank you. That's good. So you kept your learning. You kept your learning, Sunil. So that's true. I wasn't even going to bring that in, but thank you. Yeah, so you can make a Chandra Lagna chart, which is a great technique. And if we make Aquarian moon, then the Rahu will be in the 4th house from the moon, which is, huge. It's powerful Kendra. And then we have that exchange. And so Jaimini teaches that the combination of Atma Karaka and Amatya Karaka, which we're saying we have here, is a top level Raj Yoga also. So again, so yet another way of seeing how to explain such a strange life history only through these yogas, because this is the power of Vedic astrology, that we don't just, throw a whole bunch of planets on the wall and hope they stick. We have rules, we have Raj Yogas, we have Karakas, we have all these things. And for a person, to rise to such a kind of destiny, those rules have to be working for them. So then there were a couple of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and the other thing, okay, so why the Libra Lagna and why not the Leo Lagna? Okay, let me just see my other thing over here. With the Leo Lagna, then Hillary's moon in Aquarius would be in the 7th house. And that is a very weak position, because the moon in the 7th house is a passionate planet in a passionate house. And it would have its exchange with Saturn into the 12th house. So a person like that would be completely prone to a huge marital upset where they would lose their whole family and marriage. You know, I mean, Hillary, despite everything she's gone through, has kept her marriage together.
Yes, yes.
So, you know, moon in the 7th and Saturn in the 12th is not going to keep a marriage together, you know, when they're in exchange like that. So that's one reason to rule out Leo. The other reason is Libra, again, totally explains Hillary Clinton. What has been her path to power? Marriage. What does Libra rule? Marriage. Without marriage, she would never have gotten anywhere. So it's through her marriage. And that Libra sign, which rules the wife, has a Mahapurusha yoga of Venus in its own sign.
Right.
So what else would explain a powerful, independent woman who is who has the destiny of being married? And it's supported by Sun and Mercury. Mercury is a yoga for business, so she's been incredibly successful in her business contacts, starting from when she was a commodities trader to, all the business stuff she's done on her path of being a lawyer and a politician. But also the fact that the sun there is debilitated, another beautiful illustration of her life, the problems she's had with her beloved husband, and his impeachment and his woman problem, all that, so it's just so obviously illustrative of her life. The debilitated sun, the Mahapurush Venus, and the Mercury retrograde, which shows her other huge issue, which is her email problem. The retrograde planet, Mercury. Retrograde planets get really messed up. So all the, torturous, all the mistakes and all the stuff she's gone through with the emails, and we never stop hearing about it. That's the Mercury retrograde sitting right on her head, right at the ascendant point. It's almost conjunct the ascendant at 8:02 a.m. So then, just one other thing I wanted to say about this Venus and Sun combination, which to me is a fascinating illustration of Jaimini, is that we also learn there that there's a whole spectrum of exaltation to debilitation. And hold on, ladies, where we find that Jaimini teaches that the exalted planets are male and the debilitated planets are female. So
could you come again on that? Exalted planets, sir?
Yes, that you can consider the spectrum.
No, I could not hear you clearly. Can you repeat that, please? Exalted planets.
Okay. Yeah, that we can think of exaltation and debilitation as a spectrum. Okay, like the sun is exalted at 10 degrees of Aries and debilitated at 10 degrees of Libra. So everywhere along that continuance, it's either closer or farther from being exalted and debilitated. And so Jaimini's brilliance is that he explains through many of his more, advanced teachings later, that also has to do with male versus female divide. Okay. So that exalted planets are at the male end of the spectrum and debilitated planets are at the female end. And this can be used in understanding what gender a child will be, like if we study the Saptamsha, which shows about pregnancies. We can use that to predict, I don't know why I'm getting this strange screen. But anyway, it's okay. Oh, I see, because we're looking at your screen. Perfect, fine. So anyway, so exalted planets are more to the male end, and debilitated planets are to the female end. So this can predict what gender a pregnancy will be, whether a male child or a female child will be born. And it's not really meant to be an unfair comparison, but it does show one aspect of the whole difference between male and female. You know, males have this exalted edge. Females have this surrender in debility. They have the power of surrender. They have Shakti energy, which is total surrender, which sometimes is much more powerful than male energy. So it gives us a whole way to study the difference between the genders. And so anyway, the bottom line for Hillary is having this debilitated planet as the sun is symbolic of somebody who's going to break ground by becoming the first female president of a country that's very male-centric. USA is a very male-dominated kind of culture. And that's, I think, one reason of the huge resistance against Hillary as a candidate. I mean, conscious or subconscious, there's a huge resistance to having a woman leader of this country. So the fact that Hillary has a debilitated sun is just symbolic that I think Jaimini, you know, would really approve of this, you know, because it shows, okay, well, we're going to have a female president, you know, so debilitated sun, and then the Venus is Mahapurush at the same time. So those were just some of my reasons. You know, I've got more reasons, but this is probably a lot for one talk, you know. But, you know, I think I could go on, but I won't, you know, I don't want to beat it to death. But I think you can see why I feel very convinced that she would have Libra Lagna and she would have Moon in Aquarius, and it supports the 8:02 a.m. So I put the astrologic together with the evidence, and I say, yes, this is a good chart, you know. So it's good enough for me to work with. So then the next thing I would do is start doing the progressions. And this is, how are we doing? Are we going too long or anything?
No, we are okay. We are good. Ours is, our audience is very technical oriented, you know.
Okay, love.
So they love techniques, you know, and not like, you know, other channels where it's just Venus in second house or Jupiter transiting into this. So people want to hear what you are teaching us today.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Sonia, for the encouragement. Because now we come to the technical part. The rest of us are not already technical. All right, so now we can get out our little calculator. So, okay, so we've been talking about the power of the sun and the importance of degrees. And in the Manusmriti, I think it's probably the first written place that we know of where he says that one year of human life is one day in the life of the gods. And for a human being, one day in the life of a newborn baby is 1 year of destiny in that child's life. So if a child is going to live to be 120 years old, the first 120 days of life are completely crucial, because each and every day after the birth is 1 year of the future life. So it definitely pays to pay close attention to those first 120 days after birth.
Okay.
So as astrologers, it's a beautiful and simple technique, but it takes a little math. What we do is we get the age of the person at the time of an event. And so let's shift over to Donald Trump, you know. We certainly know his birth time.
Could you share his horoscope? Could you share screen? And
okay, yeah. So let's see how to do this.
I presume you're using Sri Jyotish Star.
Yes, that's what I prefer, yes.
Yeah, it's wonderful software.
Okay.
Wonderful software.
Okay, so I have it on the screen, Donald Trump's chart.
Oh, you'll have to share it.
Oh, right, share, okay. Okay. Okay, there we go. Oops.
Takes a moment, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, it should be coming up.
Yes, ma'am. It
Yes.
just needs a few seconds.
Yes, it's coming.
there.
Okay, so yeah, unfortunately I have to block out the name, but this is, okay, so this is Donald Trump, and he has birth certificate available, born June 14, 1946 in New York. The town is called Jamaica, and at 10:54 a.m. So he is now, so, all right, so how to do the technique, that you can do this for any chart, any person, any event. You take the event of interest, so I'm going to use election day, which is November 8th, 2016, and you just write that down, 2016, 11, 8, and then under that you write the birth time, 1946, 14, 6. And then you simply subtract one from the other. Okay, that's pretty easy math. Everybody should be able to do that. And you'll come up with 70 years, 4 months, and a few days. To do that math, it's easy to just work it out so that all the months will come out to be 30-day months. If you have to, you know, like October is 31 days, so you drop back a day. You know, I just count the months, but shift them around so they're all equal to 30, just to make the counting easy. And then, so for him, wait, let me just adjust this so I can see my math over here. Okay. Yeah, so 70 years, 4 months, and 17 days when you work it out. You know, you have to play around a little bit with the days and the months to get it right. And now we're going to make a simple translation of that into degrees, minutes, and seconds. So all you do is you say 70 years is 70 degrees of the sun. And 4 months is each month, if a degree, each month is 5 minutes. Because 12 fives are 60. So in 1 year of life, you're going through, you know, each month comes out to be 5 minutes. And each day comes out to be 10 seconds. So we multiply the 17 days to get 170 seconds. We multiply the 4 months to get 20 minutes. And the 70 years will be 70 degrees. So when you do all that math, it comes out to be that we're adding 70 degrees, 22 minutes, and 50 seconds after you know, carry the, and then, excuse me. So now we're going to make a chart for the day when the sun has gotten to that point. Okay, so adding that to his birth sun. His natal, you have to write down the person's natal sun to begin with. So his natal sun degrees is 29, 50, 10 of Taurus. 29 degrees, 50 minutes, 10 seconds. And it's very easy to do the math if you just give 30-degree increments for each sign. So Taurus, 29 Taurus equates to 59 degrees, right? Starting 0 Aries is 0, 29 of Taurus is 59. So we have 59, 50, 10, and to that we're adding 70, 70, 22, 50. Okay, so it's pretty simple, and then we want to find when the sun had reached 130 degrees, 14 minutes, and 40 seconds. And so we simply move the ephemeris forward. in his birth year. And we always set it for the place of natal birth. We don't move it even if the person moves, because Lagna roots us to a certain place. And so we find a chart for August 27, 1946 at 1 in the morning, 1/1935. So I can show that chart if you'd like. Or I don't know if we want to discuss a little bit about his natal chart.
You choose.
Okay. Well, I'll point out a thing or two about his natal chart. So his natal chart has Leo rising with Mars very close to the ascendant. It has Sun in the 10th house in 29 degrees. And the Sun has the highest degree of any planet in the chart. So the Sun is the Atma Karaka. And the next Karaka is Amatya Karaka, which we had been discussing. So the next highest degrees is the Moon at 28 and 6 of Scorpio. So the Moon is Amatya Karaka, the advisor to the king, and the Sun itself is the king. So we can get a feeling for the power of this chart in looking at the fact that if we look at the tripod of any horoscope, Lagna, Moon, and Sun, the Lagna is Leo, the Lord of the Lagna is Sun, which is the Atma Karaka at the 10th house, very powerful, and the Amatya Karaka is the Moon. So the entire tripod is involved. And Rahu, the political planet, is with the Lagna Lord Sun. So this is why he would seek to venture into politics. And you can see what is set up for prominence. And this person has completely dominated the conversation, you know, for at least a year.
Yeah.
Not only in America, but all over the world. Everybody's always talking about him.
Yeah.
So we see what a dominant 4 pillars of the horoscope this chart has. And so we could say a lot more about his chart, but we'll just go on and look at the progression chart now. So I can share that. I'll have to stop this share and bring up the other chart.
How do you use the, how do you create the progression chart in this software?
I don't know that this software has a way to do it automatically the way I'm doing it, the simple way I'm doing it. There may or may not be. I haven't really explored it because I find it easier to just do the math myself. It takes, you know, less than 5 minutes to do it. Especially once you're used to it, it's very fast. Okay, so I pause this share so I can bring up the progress chart. Okay. Okay, so let's see.
Now you can share again.
Okay, just bringing it up. Okay, here we go. Okay, share screen, there we go. Okay. So I have the chart up, and this is for August 27, 1946, 1/1935 in the morning in the same city, Jamaica, New York. So what we do, and at that moment, then the sun degree is now 70 degrees past the natal degree. So it was at 29 of Taurus, and then adding 70 degrees to that, we get roughly 10 degrees of Leo. So lo and behold, that the sun has moved to the natal ascendant.
Yes. But one quick question, how did you arrive at the time 119?
Okay, because Your eyes must have glazed over while I went through the math, Sunil. I went through the math.
Sorry, you're true. Okay,
That's what
I'll
happened.
relook at the recording. No
It's all
worries.
recorded.
I'll relook at the recording. No problem. Continue,
I'm going
please.
to sentence you to go back and go over it again.
I'll do that again. Don't worry.
But just,
Ma'am,
you know,
could I ask a question here? Could I ask a question? When you said about the progression, the 120 days are very important. The first 120 days are very important in a child's life. So for parents who are new parents, you know, so should they take extra care of the child, newborn child, for the first 120 days to ensure from our end a happy life for the child?
yes, it's absolutely so important to, especially the first third of that, the first 40 days. You know, some teachings advise, you know, just keep the child completely protected at home during those 40 days. Don't even take it out into the public, and just make that a very sacred time of prayer and, you know, a beautiful atmosphere around the child constantly all the time, because you are setting up the template for the entire next 40 years of life. You know, so I think the traditional teaching focuses on those 40 days. Probably it's not practical after that, you know, and you have to go out and meet everybody. But for the first 40 days, if you can avoid having any, you know, disturbance for the child, because it's making its transition from the ethers to earth, and, you know, so that's a very sacred time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
So, but looking at, so Donald Trump, so just for Sunil, because he wasn't paying attention, we'll just recap. Okay, so we simply added 70 degrees. Man is 70 years old, so we added 70 degrees to the natal sun, plus the odd, you know, minutes and for the months and days. I went through how to do that. So what we come up with is that we have moved to a new chart that has the sun at 10 degrees of Leo, and the moon is at 14 Leo. So this is an amazing thing, because if you remember the natal chart, and it's great if you have, I don't have the screen ability right now, or actually I can show comparison charts, but it's probably too complicated. But you can make a double chart where you show the natal chart on one side and the progress chart on the other side. And then you can see, because the comparison to the natal is most revealing. So in his natal chart, he has, I think it was six or 7 degrees of Leo rising. So lo and behold, the sun has now moved to the 10th degree of Leo. So for the past 3 years, it has been pinned to his natal ascendant. So the tripod has come together. The sun is on the ascendant. And it was 3 years ago that he began to decide to put his hat in the ring to run for the election. So right when the sun hit the ascendant. Before that, the sun was going over Mars, and he was more interested in his business stuff and his other stuff. But when it hit the Lagna, he said, you know, well, I might as well run for president. And then this year, the moon has come over that sun. So the moon moves about 13 degrees in a year. So in these progress charts, the moon will move just a tad more than a degree per month. So if you know, if you get really into this technique, you can cast a new progress chart for yourself every month. And the moon, you know, will move on a degree each time, and the Lagna will change usually a whole sign, because in the 12 months of a year, you will go through all 12 signs of the ascendant, whereas the sun will move only a single degree, and the moon will move 12 to 13 degrees. So you see your life shifting in it, you know, before you by doing that. So when it was, the moon was exactly at a new moon, and back like about 4 months, since the moon moves a degree per month, and it's now at 14, it was at 10. And that was the moment when he captured the nomination. He was named the Republican presidential nominee, which was a huge, you know, a huge victory for him. And that was in July. So that was right at the progressed new moon. And so the ascendant at that time would be back about 4 signs from where it is. It would have been possibly in Pisces, possibly in Aquarius. You know, we have to do the exact math to get, let's say it was Aquarius. And then the sun and moon was in the 7th house in an exact new moon. So, wow, you know, so that showed this amazing event. But ever since then, we see that the moon is now separating from the sun. And it's hemmed in between two sets of malefic double planets, you know, Saturn plus Mercury and Mars plus Venus. So there it is, hemmed in. It's in between the nodes, Rahu and Ketu. It's in a like a Kala Sarpa yoga.
Yeah.
And this is on the day of election exactly. So on that day, sun and moon will be in the 3rd house, which is the house of the opposition party in an election or in political stuff. And, you know, that's fine, but there's a lot of things showing weakness to this chart. You know, it's like he hit the climax of his power at getting the nomination at the new moon. And then since then, the weakness is, you know, just becoming more apparent.
Mm-hmm.
So
you don't feel he's going to win on this day.
Right. I don't think so. I can be wrong. You know, that'll be horrible if I'm wrong, because I've written lots of articles about why he won't. You know, that's definitely setting me up. I know all of us fellow astrologers know that pain of going way out on the limb, making this certain prediction and having it blow up in our face.
Yeah.
I have confidence in you, Satsuri. Besides, I like what you're saying.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's the other trap for the astrologer, bias, self-perpetuating of our biases.
But we're human.
Yeah. I have to say, when I first saw this chart and I saw, oh my God, it's the sun and moon on the Lagna, you know, and in his natal chart, he's got this full moon all around the Lagna, and now here they are together on his natal ascendant. Oh my Lord, you know, it looks like he's gonna win. But you know, then I had to keep working hard on it to get
To get the right answer.
Yes, exactly.
Or to make sure that he doesn't.
That's the right answer.
You know, for me, with this chart, I would have a question here.
Okay.
6th house is the house of enemies.
Yes.
So, some take 7th house as opponents.
7th house says what?
Opponents.
Oh, opponents. Yes. Okay. All right.
Now he has 6th house having Ketu, but the 6th lord has gone in the 4th house of throne.
Okay.
Which,
But it's with, go ahead.
which incidentally is also the 11th lord.
Okay.
But it's with the debilitated 12th lord also.
Thank you.
That's what is, and also 12th lord is wherever the 12th lord sits, it gives separation. So will it show separation from the throne?
Yeah, and there's a you know, there's, I think, isn't there a book called Saptarishis about by Dasin or someone, somebody, anyway, there's a book that has that principle that the 12th lord shows separation, and all the more so when it's with Rahu, Ketu, or Sun, or Saturn. Those are all separating influences. So here we see Rahu is in the 12th house and Venus is the dispositor. Saturn is fully aspecting the Mars-Venus. And, you know, so that's And Rahu's aspecting Mars Venus if you take the 5th aspect of Rahu. So you get a very strong separating kind of influence there.
But let me ask one more question, and it might sound very stupid question, but Venus here is also the 5th lord of seat of power. So Venus will give result of the 12th house more or the 5th house more?
Well, the 5th house, we have to give, that's a great question. And these are the kind of things that is so hard to learn in astrology, you know, that we all wrestle with these kind of questions. They're beautiful questions. But your very own principle that the 7th house is the opponent. Where is the 7th lord gone? Into that 5th house. So the 7th lord is in the house of victory, the victory planet in the victory house.
Seat of power.
Yes, the political power is in the 5th house, which is the natural Leo place. So the opponent is going
looks
there,
tough for Donald.
not the Mercury. Sorry?
Looks tough for Donald.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. We're glad you're seeing it that way. We need you to see that. Come on, we all got to see it together.
No, it's your show. Sorry, you know, I'm so sorry. I just had to ask these questions, you know, but this looks tough. So your verdict is it's not Donald. But in comparison, can we do a Hillary Clinton progressed?
Okay, yeah. So that's it. All right. So we will wrap it up.
Unless you want to say something more about this chart.
No, that's basically it. Okay. So now we can go.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
I see his Varnata Lagna is in the 12th house, and when I see that, I think some of the negative influence of the Varnata Lagna in the 12th, that someone is a bit unorthodox and doesn't always think pure thoughts. Is that showing there? Because I see it as having some difficulty.
Thank you, Phyllis. You brought up a wonderful principle from Jaimini, and also it's in Prajna, Varnata Lagna, VL. It's, you know, kind of advanced, so, you know, unless you're kind of, but it's totally apt principle. You know, it's, yeah, the Varnata Lagna, which Prajna has, you know, definitely a lot of shlokas on that, and he has a whole dasha around it, is showing the social, we don't, you know, caste is sort of a bad word nowadays, but it's more like the social role of a person, the work a person does, and their, you know, where they fit into society and what kind of activity they do. And Phyllis, you get a big halo, Phyllis, because you're remembering this thing from our Jaimini studies that the Varnata Lagna in the 12th house is kind of a red flag. It's a place where the social activities can become antisocial, shall we say. You know, it's not a good place to have that. And so he has that there, and it's in a sign of Venus. And we can see that Venus, the Lord, is Nietzsche, which definitely points to, you know, the feminine end of the spectrum, and also that Venus is almost under a curse. I mean, it is a cursed Venus. It has Rahu, Mars, and Saturn are all fully afflicting it. So it's showing that really, you know, the whole female issue, which, you know, has been dead everywhere, that is like, you know, opening the trapdoor under him. I mean, that is a complete weakness there.
It makes me a little concerned about the potential for violence or very unethical behavior.
Yeah, I mean, it is scary. It's really scary to have, second from the sun is kind of what happens outwardly from a person's actions, and to have that Mars there could definitely show, you know, definitely episodes of violence in the streets.
And ma'am, not to forget that his opponent is also a female.
Yes.
He's going to, going to have to go down on his knees in front of a female because the curse.
I think that's a very nice comment. Going down on knees. Anuradha. That's very bad. I would not agree to that. But okay, I mean, logically, yes.
I know. I don't think we'll see Donald down on his knees to anybody.
But I think he will be exposed because of that curse.
I think it's already happened, Phyllis. If you see Rahu in the 12th house, this last few months has been really terrible on him.
Well, it started in, I don't have the information to support it. But
Okay.
when I did the work on it, I knew that in early August he would start to fall.
Okay.
And it fit.
Okay.
Yeah, and even the day that tape came out that sort of started the final wave of, it becoming so public, was the day that the progressed moon in the declinations, it crossed Mars. So we can also look at declinations. That's a whole other study. We'll have to talk about that some other time, but it's a fascinating thing to see how events happen when we bring in declinations. But we won't go into that now.
And that's a Western concept.
Yes, declination.
A lot.
Yes.
No, but even declination is mentioned in Brihad Parashara Hora Shastra as Kranti, if I'm not wrong. It is mentioned.
Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you.
Absolutely, you are so right. And there's just so much undiscovered wealth of information around that we need as astrologers to study. That's my main interest right now, studying more on that.
Yeah.
That's good, because that's what, so am I.
Okay, so that's great.
I'm developing a Western team to begin the study.
Great, fantastic. Hopefully we'll get to compare.
Pardon?
Hillary Clinton progressed.
Okay, so we can look at her progression now. So I'll pause this share again, and we can bring up hers.
Now you can.
Okay. Okay, so let's see if this share again. Okay, share screen. Okay. Just fix my other screen over here.
Let's see.
Okay, so we did the same technique here. Just to
look at Phyllis.
All right, so just a quick brief recap. She is 69 years, and on election day, it'll be 69 years and 13 days. So we simply add to her natal sun degrees. To her natal sun, we add 69 degrees, and 13 times 10 seconds is 2 minutes, and whatever. So then we get this sun, which is at Sagittarius 1407, and so this moves the time up to January 2nd, 1948. So this chart is not as dramatic as Trump's chart at all, but it has these very strong indications and it's kind of too bad that I didn't have a double screen showing the natal and the progressed. But if you can print them out and look at the two charts side by side.
Mm-hmm.
A great simple way always to examine a chart is look at the tripod of the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. So we see that the sun has come up to 18 of Sagittarius, and if you had her natal chart up, you would see that in Navamsha, her sun is at Sagittarius And if you do degrees, it's very close to that degree. So
Yeah.
that shows a kind of
It is in Sagittarius, you're right, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a kind of good fortune, because also here's a declination technique for you, Phyllis. The Sun and Jupiter in the declinations, which you can see down on the lower left hand, you see the declinations are listed there. And you see Sun is at minus, over on the right two columns are the degrees and minutes of declination. So the Sun
and
is at
Jupiter on the same declination, yes.
Wow.
So the Sun's is at minus 2257, and the Jupiter is at minus 2207. And as we move the days forward towards inauguration day, they become very close, and they're almost exact on the inauguration day. So that is a parallel between Sun and Jupiter. And declinations are so powerful. So that's like a conjunction. Not only that, but you can give a degree. Westerners have discovered this wonderful technique of giving degree equivalents to declination positions. And so that's a whole advanced topic to do at another time. But so the Sun and Jupiter, if you give a degree equivalent to that, it comes into a very powerful place in the chart, you know. So these are like more secret signs of victory. That Sun Jupiter progression, I mean declination progression, is an amazing thing. And then their degree comes very close to where the Jupiter is in the Rashi chart. So so looking at the so the Sun is close to the natal Navamsha Sun. The ascendant is close to the Rahu, which we discussed at the beginning. It's gone a few degrees, which is just a few days. Remember, it moves in a month. It moves about a degree a day. So this is just, the natal Rahu is about 2 degrees of Taurus, so it's about 10 days past conjunction to Rahu. And in fact, oh yeah, so that was when the FBI bomb came out, right? As the progressed ascendant hit the exact point of natal Rahu was the day that the FBI intruded itself into the election by, you know, announcing this innuendo about more email stuff. You know, so they made this, it became a huge thing that made her take a big dip in the polls. And that was when the Lagna hit Rahu.
Could I ask you to repeat that part about the FBI and the technical astrological part?
Yeah, so the FBI bomb, we'll call it, you know, when they really improperly inserted themselves, it was the day, it was, now it's, I don't know how many days ago is it from now, like a week or 6 or 7 days. I don't know how many days. But you think that roughly the progressed Lagna moves at a rate of a degree per day, very roughly. So, you know, you'd have to, if you're the obsessive type, you'd have to do all the math. But it's now at 12 degrees, and at, say, 10 days ago, roughly, it was 2 degrees. It was close to natal Rahu. So one thing that's really a lot of fun with these progressions is you see that events happen as exact hits come in the progression. So as she shifted into Taurus, she was doing great while Aries was there, and then that was 12 days ago. And then somewhere in there, the FBI scandal broke right as it crossed Rahu, you know, a day or two either side. And of course, one of Rahu's pleasant governorships is scandal. Rahu loves to spread scandal. So that's what happened there. But anyway, so the Lagna on election day is still in Taurus. And the moon is a co-lord of Taurus, and Venus is the other lord of Taurus. Taurus has two rulers, an exaltation lord and the normal lord, the body lord. So Venus is well placed in the 9th, and Moon, which is her natal Atmakaraka, is in the 5th house of political power. also on the Pada Lagna or Aruda Lagna, which is a very important point for public success and public perception. So to have the moon with the Aruda Lagna on election day is a big positive, very positive sign. So those two planets in the trines, Venus and Moon, give her a road ahead. They mean she's moving ahead towards what? Jupiter in the 7th, towards victory. I mean that, on that day it becomes, the victory becomes official. So there's more stuff that I could go into, but, I think probably we've covered, a lot of important stuff, and we don't want to overload it, at once. So I think this is, this is a good place, unless you have questions and stuff, to kind of leave it at that. We could look at also at the progressive Vamsha. It has Moon in the ascendant.
Well, for me, even this chart is very, I don't know, I just feel even this horoscope has Rahu Ketu in the 6-12 axis, and 7th Lord is in the 4th house. That's opponent. I don't know. I mean, this is still a tough.
Yeah, look at that 7th Lord. It's right on Donald's progressed Sun and Moon, exactly conjunct. His, we just looked at his progressed Sun and Moon at 10 and 14 of Leo, and there's the opponent at Mars on 14 degrees of Leo. So, okay, Sunil, you're trying to make us all nervous.
No, but she's got a great
like
point.
To add to the drama.
No. Okay, I'll to make up for that. Lagna Lord is in the 9th house. 9th house, as per Chandrakala Nadi, is the king, and this is the female planet Venus. So she'll probably become the queen or the king of the world. So now I think all Hillary Clinton's fans are going to love me.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we're happy.
For bringing us this information.
Okay. But it's a great technique.
And it's supported by a lovely moon in the 5th house.
Yeah.
That's a lovely support too.
Yeah.
I mean, as they say, it's a quieter chart. It's not dramatic like Donald's. Everything about Donald is totally larger than life. Everything about Hillary is, like a bird. You have a bird with bright colored plumage as the male, and then you have the female who's a little brown, humble, modest little brown bird, and that's what she is.
I just believe whoever becomes the president in the 12th month from this date, election date, something dramatic will happen. 12th
Okay,
month,
so why do you feel that?
Sorry?
Let's see.
Okay, give us your reasons for that.
The first house is the first month.
Yes.
Second house, second month. Third, so 12th month has Rahu, 6th month has Ketu. So 6th and 12th month from this date, active month should be problematic. But anyway, let's see. I'm quite sure now people are very happy with you, with Hillary Clinton coming to power. So it's a great technique of Manusmriti that you have taught us. And Phyllis, would you like to add or ask any questions on this chart or this technique, or Anuradha-ji?
I have many questions to ask, but I don't think any of them are appropriate. I am just so grateful for what you've done, Satsuri, and you've opened many doors here, and I appreciate it. And I hope that you come back to help with the students to learn so many of these other techniques that you talked about, and I can guarantee you that I'll be happy to learn them too. Same here,
especially Varnada Lagna, that someone
that's powerful.
Something about 14 years back. I had worked so hard on Varnada Lagna and tried using it to time the job, because at that time I was jobless. And I just checked my old emails, Yahoo mails. I found you and me were also discussing Tara Dasha.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
That email I found, it is 2006 or 7. I have. Astonishing. It is 6/6/2006. 6th of June 2006.
That's beautiful. So great. Okay.
10 years back. More than 10 years back.
Yeah.
So, this is great. I mean, Satsriji, I would like everybody in US to learn Jaimini astrology from you. So people can log into satsrikhalsa.com. In the comment section, in the description, I'm going to put a website. You can learn. He has several programs, Jaimini Scholar program. I presume Parashar program also you have, Satsriji?
Yeah. Yes,
so,
right.
These are very intensive courses, not for, these are very serious courses. So
it's a big commitment. Yes.
Big commitment. So anybody who wants to be seriously involved in Jyotish to a very high level, so she has these programs, and I really wish everybody to use this progression technique. I know it doesn't sound easy, but I have seen several astrologers use it beautifully. Please,
that's what I would like to see. I would like to get a class going just about that, progressions and declinations, because it's just a monster way to bring together Westerners and Easterners, and I would love to do that.
That would be wonderful to see.
That would be
absolutely wonderful to see. And it would open so many doors for so many people.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you so much, Satsriji. I know it is way past midnight over there. And to you, Phyllis, keeping you guys awake. You taught us something brilliant. I know probably those who want Donald Trump to win are not going to like you.
Not going to like me big time because of what I said, and I'm sorry, but...
Yeah, but...
Anuradha, thank you.
But I always believe, we as astrologers see the kind of limitations we are working with. We do not have a birth certificate for Hillary. We are trying various techniques. Of course, please understand, Satsriji might not have given all the reasons why she feels Hillary Clinton is a Libra Lagna. So all those that is at the back of the mind, in this particular interview, in this particular session. But one's experience also speaks, and astrologers can fail also. We all can fail. We all can overlook some really bizarre point or something we feel insignificant, this thing. The whole point is trying and sticking your neck and making that prediction. I can't do it. Those who can do it, like Satsriji and our dear Edith Hathaway and many others, hats off to them. Satsriji, please feel free to come on Saptarishis YouTube channel whenever you want. Every month, we would love you to have you. Teach us something. Let the world know how serious real astrology is.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, Anuradha. Thank you, Sunil. God bless you.
It's been an honor for us. Thank you so much.